All right. Looks like we
Testing,
have our
testing.
moderator on the line. There you are. Hey, John.
Hey, how's it going?
It is going wonderfully.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool.
Hi,
Yeah,
Nina. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good, thank you. Good. I think we'll wait for a few more folks to join before we really kick things off. But so Nina, whereabouts in the world are you calling in from? Are you East Coast, right? In New York?
Yes, yes. Right now I'm in New York City. What about you?
Nice. I'm actually in Bangkok in Thailand, so it's 1 a.m. on my side. So very different to where you are, probably, I would guess.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that you have to join a Twitter space at 1 a.m.
No, it's all good. No, it's all good. I'm excited to talk to you, and as we'll get into in a bit, to understand more about the new project that you're working on, or that you're about to release, or is being released at the moment. So we'll dig into that very very soon.
Sure.
So thanks for making some time to talk to us.
Thank you for hosting.
Cool. Well, I'm going to spread the message around and get some more people in this space. And John, feel free to take it away.
Cool. Thanks so much. Okie dokie. Okay. Okay, folks. So I think we can make a start, and yeah, it'd be good to make a start now. We're looking at about an hour. So I'm sure there's so many questions that we have for you, Mina. I'm sure we could take easily, easily over an hour. But we'll try to keep it to um, the pure alpha, the insight, and yeah, I'm looking forward to getting going. So obviously, we know you. The Zeta Chain community is quite familiar with what you guys do at Native. And yeah, maybe a good place to start would be to explain what Aqua is and how it's come to be from the original Native X service that you guys have.
Sure. Hello everyone. My name is Maina. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Native. Very, very happy to be at the Zeta Chain Twitter space today. And thank you for the great introduction, John. So what you said is right, right? I believe the Zeta Chain community is already very familiar with the native branding because we already launched our first two products on Zeta Chain already. Um, in a nutshell, Native is building DeFi's omni-chain liquidity hub. So through our unified liquidity layer, we want to provide the most capital efficient liquidity across different blockchains, as well as the apps built on top of them. And our goal is to enable that from any supported chain, liquidity providers can supply assets to the protocol, receiving yields in return as sophisticated market makers use that liquidity on credit to deliver traders optimal pricing. Um, so as you guys can hear, the keyword here is we want to enable the professional market makers to utilize the liquidity on credit to deliver the best pricing for traders. And that is exactly what our new product Aqua gonna be. So a short brief dive into the previous two products, right? Native.org is essentially our fundamental trading infrastructure, which is an RQ routing system, where on the front end, we different business partners such as OneInch, OpenOcean, all those, or top solvers, CowSwap, top solvers, and OneInch Fusion, or even like ZetaSwap, right? They will all call our API to utilize the liquidity that Native aggregates. On the back end, Native aggregate the liquidity from both AMM and PMM sources. So that product was launched back in April 2023, and we already did over 2.5 billion in terms of spot trading. The second product is NativeX, which is essentially our 2C venue where retail traders, they can come directly onto NativeX to trade and enjoy the super competitive pricing that we already aggregated. The third product, Aqua, which today we will be primarily focusing on, is a tool that we created specifically to solve the pain points for on-chain liquidity providers and market makers. From the retail user perspective, when they come to Aqua, they can just do single token supply into Aqua without any impermanent loss. But in comparison to Compound Aave, they will really enjoy a high, real, and sustainable yield from Aqua. Where does the yield come from? It will coming from the usage, the financing fee that we will be charging from the market makers. So on the back end, Aqua is enabling credit-based trading for market makers and solvers so that they will get on-chain leverage with the same amount of inventory or collateral inside Aqua. The market makers will be able to complete much more transactions with larger volume and thus more profit. So that's in a nutshell what Native as a like overall branding umbrella does and what Aqua adds into the table. To summary, it's essentially we are solving the inventory problem from the professional market makers, but we are enabling or allowing the retail users to tap into trustlessly depositing that type of inventory and liquidity for the professional market makers. It's called trustless liquidity provisioning into PMM. I just came up with that word.
Very nice and a very comprehensive answer too. That's good to know. So in terms of the Aqua product, so you guys aren't yet live on Zeta Chain, right? What is the kind of what is the status of the product right now? I think you're on ZK Link Nova, right? What in terms of expansion? Obviously, as you've mentioned, this is a very interesting take on what's already out there. What is the sort of short-term plan that you've got in terms of making the product more available?
Yes. So you're right. We just started our testing phase with ZK Link Nova a week or 2 weeks ago, and the testing phase has been going pretty smoothly. I think yesterday or the day before itself, we already powered over 1.67 million in spot trading on ZK Link Nova with just 500K TVL in Aqua pool on ZK Link. So that itself just shows how much capital efficiency we are bringing into different ecosystems, right? Itself, the overall capital utilization rate is already over 300%, which if you go to any decentralized exchanges, their usual overall capital utilization rate is usually below 50%. I think for Uniswap, the overall capital utilization is probably around 20% to 30% daily. So that has already been proven that Aqua is a very, very powerful capital efficient tool for any specific ecosystems. In terms of our expansion plan, as now we have more people talking about Aqua, and we are also ready to wrap up the testing on ZK Link Nova soon, then we will start the deployment on the official deployment on other layer ones and layer twos. And Zeta Chain is of course on our very prioritized radar because since even before Zeta Chain mainnet launch, right, we we deployed on Zeta Chain testnet for native or native X, and now we have such a powerful new product. Of course, for Aqua, we will be planning to deploy on Zeta Chain very soon, and the timeline probably will be around. We want to finish the deployment around the beginning of May, and then I'm constantly chatting with Zeta Chain team to co-create an incentive program for all the Zeta Chain and Aqua users, so that essentially when we come to Zeta Chain, it will be I would say a really great on-chain farming opportunities for all the community users.
Awesome. So what what is the sort of short pitch that you'd give? Obviously, like there's we're sort of growing our stable of DeFi products that are out there on the chain. What is it that you think? What is it that you believe that you guys can do? What is the extra sort of value that you can add to folks who are out there in our community?
Yeah, great question. So it really depends on which type of group of users that you are talking about, right? And then I want to separate from a 2C perspective and then a 2B perspective. So if we primarily talking about Aqua, there are three type of users for Aqua, right? First type is the liquidity providers. No matter you are retail or institution, when you come to Aqua and you check the list of the tokens that are available to supply into Aqua, and then all you need to do is just supply single tokens without any impermanent loss, and you will enjoy the high yield. So the yield is almost always guaranteed to be better than any lending and borrowing protocol, because on the retail user perspective, right, on the liquidity provider user, we also enable the over collateralized lending and borrowing. So that means like retail users will enjoy the supply rate from the typical borrowing rate that retail users are paying. But on top of that is because on the back end, we are enable the credit-based trading for the market makers and solvers. So the market makers and solvers are paying their financing fee whenever they use those tokens to settle the transactions. So that's additional yield that the real yield that the retail users can get on top of the typical supply rate. And adding another layer of that is, as I mentioned, we will encourage, and we already get a lot of commitment from different projects that they will also provide incentives together with their project together with Aqua to add on top of that. And another thing, one more layer is like we can even contribute the trading fees that we have been collecting from like the native swap or native swapping perspective back into the Aqua liquidity providers. So this is really true, safe, sustainable yield without any impermanent loss for the retail users. So and this has already aroused a lot of attention even from those LST, LRT protocols, because their users are constantly looking for more yields, and we are the perfect product for them to not only improve the liquidity depths for those LST, LRT tokens, but also adding another layer of safe yields. That's for liquidity providers, right? Second type of users for Aqua will be the market maker and solvers. As I mentioned before, Aqua is providing the market maker and solvers chain agnostic credit. What does it mean? It means like when a market maker before they need to do market making, let's say they need to do all those arbitraging on DeFi, right, on decentralized exchange or between decentralized exchange and central exchange, then on chain they need to hold a lot of specific type of assets and inventories, specific blockchains. They need to hold majors, mid cap coins, altcoins, and so that like they essentially they have the delta risk. But when they use Aqua, they don't need to deploy or they don't need to hold any specific type of assets on any chains anymore. All they need to do is just deposit, let's say, 1 million collateral of USDC on Ethereum, and all of a sudden they will get the chain agnostic credit, right? Assume the maximum LTV for USDC is 70%, then we say this market maker, they have 700K worth of credit inside the Aqua pool. And as long as their credit is healthy, they can continuously to utilize all those different type of assets inside the Aqua pool across different chains. So, and because our credit mechanism, we are also providing those market maker and solvers for with leverage for each of those transaction settlement. So essentially, they bear less risk. Second, they get leverage on chain. That means they will make more money. So it's a huge leap for them. And because and the third group of beneficiaries here we're talking about are actually traders, right? Because we lower the entry barrier for market makers, we are providing them more inventories to facilitate to utilize on chain. We lower their cost of capital on chain. Then they can provide better pricing. So the traders, they can also enjoy those zero slippage PMM pricing for all those different pairs in terms of spot trading. So those are like 3 type of user groups. And then if we talk about, let's say, the 2B side of things, when we come to Zeta Chain ecosystem, right? For example, the existing example is ZetaSwap is built on top of native trading infrastructure. So ZetaSwap don't have to build anything. They don't have to aggregate any liquidity sources. All they need to do is plug into our API, and then they are able to utilize all those liquidity sources. So when we deploy Aqua, they will also enjoy the super competitive pricing coming out of Aqua. Same applies to all the other DeFi projects within the Zeta Chain ecosystem, right? If you guys are interested in embedding our swapping widget, utilizing our spot trading liquidity, you just need to come to our website, check out the API docs, and I think within probably like 5 to 10 minutes, you'll be able to embed the swapping widget within your own D app. So I would say, like, before we always say, oh, native is the invisible DEX layer. Now we are changing our branding a little bit because we don't want to be that invisible, right? We want people to, at least from the 2C perspective, to see us more. So we are pushing our narrative more. But again, the 2B side of things still exist. So no matter like the users are coming directly into NativeX to trade, to Aqua to supply assets, or they are indirectly going to a partner's website to utilize our liquidity, Native will always be the reliable, trustworthy liquidity layer that everybody utilize. Yeah. I know this is a very lengthy answer, but hopefully this gives you a better understanding of like why we are important for different ecosystems.
Absolutely. No, again, very comprehensive. So essentially, if I was to butcher it and make it very short, essentially you're allowing a retail a retail digital asset holder to work with a market maker to essentially provide a better fee structure so that other retail investors also get a better deal, but then you also make money from the trade that the market maker is doing, right?
We are allowing the retail liquidity providers to do very simple single token deposits, but the actual yields they're enjoying are from the very sophisticated market maker strategies. So they're kind of like indirectly sharing the market maker's profit a little bit. And then the third triangle is the trading, right? They're also sharing the trading fees as well as enjoying the better pricing coming out of that. Yes.
Makes sense. So you basically you become a friend to the market makers, and they become your friend by giving you better deals too, essentially.
I would say it's a triangle between liquidity provider, traders, and market makers. Yep.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. And I'm just curious. Like, so where did the idea for this, where did this come from? Obviously, running the native program at NativeX, you're very you're very exposed to this world. You're part of this world. Did this idea come from talking to market makers? Was there is there any moment or any kind of spark where this kind of idea came to you?
Yes. So I would say like I'm not a lunatic to build 3 products, but it's really because over the time we see where the product is lacking, then we build that product. But essentially, as I mentioned before, actually the 3 products that we built complete each other, right? So in this case, native.org, the B2B part, is providing us the essential infrastructure for our training infrastructure or pricing infrastructure, where we aggregated both AMM liquidity and PMM liquidity. PMM shortens professional market makers. It's an RFQ router, right? This provides the competitive pricing out of that infrastructure. And then NativeX is our user order flow, meaning that's all where we all collect the user's transaction intent from. And on the other hand is Aqua, which is the programmable liquidity. So it's where the inventory part comes from, because pricing plus inventory equals liquidity. So this is how we are building unified liquidity, and how we come up with those different products. It is also a progress, right? Since the beginning, back in April 2023, when we launched native.org, we got a lot of attention from the 2B side of users, or the solvers, aggregators. They are making great volume using our API. But we realized that like if we want to do this middle layer, it's not that powerful enough, right? For us to, let's say, make money. Because to build this, yes, it takes time, but anybody can build it. Probably at that time, the only entry barrier is all your good connections with leading market makers, right? So then I said, oh, how do we improve our product better? Maybe I think we need our own order flow. Like we need our own branding to break it out there. So August 2023, I launched NativeX to gain our own order flow. Yeah, but after a while, we do see like more people are coming to native. They recognize the branding of NativeX, but even with, let's say, 70 to 80% of all the DeFi order flows, right? This meaning the NativeX order flow plus all the other aggregators, like how they are sending all their orders to our APIs. We are still not settling as much as Uniswap or other leading DEXs. And what is the reason? The reason is very simple. Our pricing is not competitive, even though we have most of the leading market makers pricing, right? And then I chat with those different market makers. I also research on, what are the orders that Uniswap or other leading DEXs they are settling? It's essentially the orders with large volume, right? It's essentially the orders with a lot of mid-cap size pairs. And why market makers aren't able to provide competitive pricing on that? Then we realize, okay, the problem is their on-chain inventory. It's very expensive for those market makers to put money on-chain, right? If they put money on central exchange, they get a lot of leverage. But on-chain, they don't have anywhere who will give them leverage, and not even saying the way we are doing it, it's like very low cost. So that's how we originated the idea of Aqua. Yeah, I saw the pain point for market makers and the liquidity providers, because liquidity providers, when they, let's say, supply assets into Uniswap V2 or V3, they all suffer from impermanent loss, and they are losing money. Basically, like I think any average retail users wouldn't be able to make money. There's already research data supporting that. So given with all those concerns and problems from retail users and market makers in mind, then we created Aqua. That's how I guess the product. I'm not. It's not product pivoting. It's more like we are building what we need to complete our unified liquidity flywheel along the process while we are building native.
And that makes sense. And they always say that the best solutions are always found when you have your own personal problem, when you're fixing a problem that you know inside out, right? So certainly the journey that you talked about and how you identify this opportunity makes a lot of sense in terms of like how I guess traditional tech problems tend to be found and solved, which is kind of cool. I just wanted to. I know we've got some people who've probably just joined recently, and I'm sure we can go back over some of the key parts of the product. But I thought it'd be quite interesting just to delve into your own personal journey, because I know that you obviously came into crypto from a traditional finance background. I'm kind of curious, like, can you share with us the journey that you made?
Sure. Yeah, I think I have a quite unique journey than other people. Um, so before crypto, I was a data scientist for 7 or 8 years. I was mainly focusing on customized data science solution, end-to-end data science solution development for different consulting companies that specialize in financial services, technology, and marketing. And I spent, I think, 2 to 3 years specifically across the Wall Street region, because at that time, like the company I work at is called Aqua, right? They specialize in financial services. So I have to go to different banks, hedge funds, and then understand their business problems and try to come up with customized data science solutions, manage the team for them, or bring my own team to develop the solution and essentially like hand over the solution to their internal team, and measure the essential business outcome for those solutions. And how I joined crypto was back, I think, in at the end of 2021. I didn't officially join, but I overheard the concepts of Ethereum, Bitcoin during like a friend's dinner, and then all of a sudden I think, oh, this is very very interesting, and also thanks to those group of friends. I mean, today we're still good friends, and they're still working very very actively in crypto. They actually made a lot of introductions and helped me to know more about the industry. So at the middle of 2022, I decided to start my own podcast channel to do like founders interviews, artist interviews, or investors interviews. Mainly, first is to actually mainly the reason is for my own learning journey. I want to learn more. Like I want to learn more from other founders, other investors. Why are they successful in the industry, or why are they not yet successful in the industry? Um, but the good thing coming out of that is actually I made a lot of good friends, and also I was able to build my network, and also maybe put a little bit like reputation out there. So I also raised a little bit for my podcast too, and then around the end of 2022, I think October, like one of the investor, he talked to me. He was like, Maina, I have this POC idea, which is the origination of native. And he was like, I think you got all the skill set to push this product forward. Do you want to do it? I'm like, okay, sure, I'm on board it. Then that's why I started native. So the original B2B side, the RFQ routing system idea is, I'm not the originator. But after I start to develop native, and after I start to dig more into the industry, then we build native X, and then I brainstormed to come up with Agua, and then yeah, that's where we are. So my journey is really, I would say I'm very lucky in the sense that I got to know some very good crypto leaders in the very beginning, and I also very lucky to be able to let's say, launch my own podcast so that I always get to connect to the right people. And yeah, I'm very grateful for the overall journey. But I think it's all those experience, the building new products, from struggling with different phases also helped me to grow. So I'm still growing, right? Right now I'm struggling, not struggling, but I'm trying to delegate more work because the company is growing really, really fast, right, across different horizons. So I actually need to delegate more responsibility to different team members and focus a lot more on PR, things like Twitter Space, tweeting from my personal account, appearing on podcasts, those kind of things. Yeah, this is my short story.
Wow, very cool. The podcast is still going, or I mean, I imagine with three products that you guys have out, finding the time to actually do that is not so easy, right?
No, it's not. I think I paused updating my podcast a year ago. Yeah, I hope like one day when I'm not that busy, I can re kick off again because I still think it was very fun to do the podcast side of things. And I do believe like if I re kick it off this time, the questions or the content I'm going to be preparing will be deeper because my understanding of the industry of my own business has been deepened so much. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's very, very cool, very interesting. Okay, so we're about halfway through, and I just wonder if it's worth to recap a bit for anybody who just joined. Aqua, and whether you want to just explain. I know you already gave us a really comprehensive overview, but just for folks who might have just joined, who've only just caught some parts of the chat that we've had so far, maybe you want to just go over on a more sort of brief level, like a bit about the product and the expansion plans that you've got, and then we can kick on and have some other questions after that, if that's cool.
Sure. Yeah. So at Native, we are building DeFi's omni-chain liquidity hub, and through our unified layer, we aim to provide the most capital efficient liquidity across blockchains and the dApps built on top of them. From any supported chains, liquidity providers can supply assets to Aqua, receiving yields in return as sophisticated market makers use that liquidity on credit to deliver traders optimal pricing. We are the new DeFi primitive, which enables credit-based trading. Um, and we look forward to everybody to try out our three products, native.org, nativex.finance, and Agua, each serving a different purpose, right? Native.org is specifically catered for B2B partners who want to utilize our liquidity. Nativex.finance is catered for retail traders who want to enjoy zero slippage PMM pricing. And Agua is aimed towards liquidity providers who want to enjoy safe, real, and sustainable yields without any impermanent loss. Expansion plan. Right now, we are doing our small testing phase with ZK-Link Nova. We are ready to wrap up that testing phase very, very soon. And around mid-April, we will start the official deployment on other layer ones and layer twos. And Zeta Chain as our strategic partner, I think all the communities can expect us to be live around the beginning of May.
Very cool. Thanks so much for the recap. And just to go into in a bit more detail, the kind of yields that you guys offer. Can you talk a bit about that? And obviously, there have been some very famous examples in the past of of crypto protocols and DeFi projects offering yields that seem too good to be true, and they've ended up being that way, right? There's been products that have obviously collapsed. Just curious, like how the yields that you offer, how you keep them attractive, but also you run them in a way that's sustainable, so it doesn't bring the whole product down.
Yeah. You're very right. I know there's a lot of negative examples in the industry before that they, in order to create like a short-term hype, they either farmed their own token very hard to provide that unsustainable yield, or they do something sketchy on the back end, right? But I think for Aqua, that you shouldn't be worrying about it at all. First of all, the high yield, or I mean, let's stop call it high yield. It's just like comparing to all the other products, our yield seems to be too good to be true. But actually, it's all coming from your real usage of all those assets, right? If we're going back to like what is the core problem that Native is solving, we are solving the capital utilization problem in the crypto space. Because right now, yes, if liquidity providers just putting their money into Uniswap V2, V3, right? How they're generating the LP fees is through like heavy token incentivization, or maybe Uniswap they attribute some of the transaction fees. They just started to do that, right? To the liquidity providers. And that's it. But still users suffers from the impermanent loss because of the x times y equals k, right? Which is what makes it very unattractive. But on Aqua's perspective, as I said before, we have probably 4 to 5 pillars of our yield. First pillar of yield is the traditional lending and borrowing yield, which you have a supply fee, right? Other people, retail users, they do the over collateralized borrowing. You are enjoying that supply fee, right? What the product is earning probably is the difference between the supply and borrow, right? And then what makes us special is we call the second pillar, which is the financing fee. So essentially, because we are allowing the market makers to do credit-based trading using the assets inside Aqua pool, so the market makers are utilizing those assets to settle transactions. They are able to generate more profits. Thus, they are able to pay those financing fees, right? Market makers are not dumb. They wouldn't just like borrow that money for no reason. It's because like after their calculation of the cost of capital, right? They will do their own calculation. Oh, if I deposit certain collateral into Agua, I do all those many transactions, will I be making more money than before? And our experiment has shown that that's the case. That's why we are able to have that 300% plus capital utilization rate on ZK-Link Noma right now. So in return, right, when we collect all the financing fees that we are charging from the market maker, the retail users get to share that, right? We contribute the financing fee back to the liquidity providers. So I would say like the more that specific type of asset is used in transactions, let's say right now, I know Ethena has a lot of trading volume, or people are always trading, let's say Ethereum, right? Trading those majors, or some of the altcoins that has a lot of hype. The more usage, the more user inquiry, the more money market maker will be making, so that like the liquidity providers will also enjoy more yield from that. So we are not creating money out of nowhere. It's more, I think it's more like an indirect profit share from the market makers. It's just we leave the risk to the market makers in terms of like market makers, they know how to adapt their pricing and market making strategy based on different market conditions, right? Whenever the market goes up or goes down, or based on different projects' progress, they know how to manage their delta risk, right? They will always try to be delta neutral, so that like retail users, they don't need to worry about adapting to the market conditions anymore, right? That's why we call ourselves programmable liquidity. So that's the second pillar of the yield that's coming from. It actually comes from the real usage of the token. So if let's say we deploy on a chain called XYZ, and if on that XYZ chain there's no transaction happening, then yeah, there wouldn't be any financing fee. So all I'm saying is like we are not creating something out of air. It depends on the usage. It can go up and down. Right. Third pillar will be like partners token incentive. So that will really depend on, I guess, my BD skills, right? Or how much like the partners seeing like how strategic Aqua will be. And I think so far we're seeing pretty good. And at least I think for the next 1 to 2 years, we shouldn't be worried about that part. We have great partners aligned to provide incentives into Aqua. And then fourth pillar, trading fee, as I said before, right? Because the uniqueness of native, we not only have Aqua, the lending and borrowing 2.0 protocol, but also we have the trading infrastructure. So we can also collect trading fees. And we just started to doing that like last week. Things have been going great. I'm not ready to share the numbers yet, but all I want to say is like I think users should be confident that like that could be a very good fourth pillar of the yield where like Aqua users can enjoy. So I think with all those, and the trading fees are also sustainable as long as we are the ones are providing the best pricing for most of the pairs. Yeah. Because people always need to trade, people always need to lend and borrow. Those are all the fundamental needs for a lot of DeFi protocols, right? So with those four diversified yield sources, I'm very confident that we will be able to beating the yield for most of the lending and borrowing protocols in the market, and it should be the way in the future too.
Cool. Sounds great. Well, we're very excited to see you guys come over and launch on Zeta for the community. I'm sure there's a big gap there, which we're looking for new ways to put our digital assets to work. So exciting stuff. Just a question here, like what the key observations that you found about the utilization of private market making quotas versus public liquidity? Have you seen a difference there? Is there some insight that you can share with us, perhaps?
Yes. I will keep this short, but we did internally did some research, right? Benchmark against PMM pricing's effectiveness or capital utilization versus AMM, and we did this against Uniswap V2 pools, and we found that like PMM pricing is 7 to 8 times more capital efficient than AMM pricing. That means suppose like we give a private market maker or professional market maker 1 million on chain to achieve the same level of like, let's say, pricing depth and pricing competitiveness. You need to deposit at least 7 to 8 million in Uniswap V2 pool to achieve the same level of pricing accuraciness. So that's why we are so confident to launch Aqua, because essentially if we are 7 to 8 times more capital efficient, that means right now Uniswap, they have a total 4 billion in total TVL, right? If we give 1/7 or 1/8 of like the overall Uniswap TVL, which will be 500 million or 600 million to private market makers, technically speaking, we will be able to price better than Uniswap on every single pair.
Wow, impressive.
Yep.
And actually, I guess based around following on from that answer, I'm really curious. I know sort of like your journey into crypto, I guess, was around the time of DeFi summer. Is that about right?
I think it's right after DeFi summer, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this question might not be so applicable, but I'm just curious, like how you see the DeFi market now. I guess, yeah, how it is now, and the way that you're looking obviously, you're launching a new product imminently, right? How you see the market now versus say maybe 2 years ago, or as far back as you want to go, because these days, I mean, there's yield on so many different assets, and it used to be more sort of restricted, and it's now quite common to see, yield and lockups on almost sort of everything out there, and obviously the sort of liquidity ideas that you guys have and that you're putting to work are also, as you say, quite different to what the biggest players who are out there now have done. So yeah, just this is a very long question, but yeah, just curious, like how you see the market for a DeFi. How's it changed in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, from the DeFi perspective, I know there has always been like new products coming up, right? We have all those new narratives like LST, LRT, RWAs. They are getting a lot of traction. But I think the reason why we created Native or Aqua is fundamentally during the last 2 years, I haven't seen any major innovation that's specifically tackling the capital utilization problem, right? I know there are many protocols try to make uncollateralized lending work or credit works, but nothing worked, right? We didn't see any major adoption because they weren't able to introduce credit on chain in a very safe way. I'm not going to name drop protocols, but if credit was working before then, we should probably have heard them. And this is the reason why we create Agua, is we essentially are introducing the concept credit on chain, but while in the meantime we are holding the overall position of like those market makers or solvers against Agua over collateralized, so the risk is well contained. We essentially move the golden accounting book of, let's say, the long and short positions, which power the credit-based trading on chain. So we have the golden book of the accounting. We can hold each party accountable. We can hold the retail users' assets safe and sound, while still in the meantime they can enjoy a really, really high yield, right? And in terms of how I see DeFi gonna grow, I mean, right now I don't think it's DeFi's time yet, because during the last several months, because the market has been better, people are chasing around meme coins, right? There are people are chasing around the concept of AI. I think it's a good sign that we have new narratives and people are hyped about the Web3 space. But I do believe, like, essentially probably later this year there will be a time for DeFi, because that's essentially what's moving the fundamentals, right? Whatever you guys are chasing in terms of narrative right now, at the end of the day, all the narratives will be tied back to trading, lending, borrowing, staking, those four fundamental activities. So I'm pretty bullish on the product itself, as well as the overall DeFi narrative. I think everybody just need to be a little bit patient. But I would say, just like one more additional comment, like, do I think some of the current narratives are bubbles? 100% yes. So retail users, if you are listening to this, I mean, I think you should do your own research. Yeah. Especially, okay, I think let's end my answer here, because otherwise I gotta throw another
Mic
comment.
drop.
I
I was gonna say, like, that's why I didn't cut you up there, because I was just wondering how much more you were gonna say.
Yeah.
Very interesting. All I heard from that is we're still early, right? DeFi is still very early. I also heard you talking about Solana meme coins, but let's not talk about that too much. But yeah, still early, which is good to hear. I think Yeah, no, I'm definitely super excited to hear how you guys go from obviously the testing you've been doing now to put a lot more volume behind the theories that you've got will be very, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're in the last sort of period here, the last sort of 10 minutes of this. I wondered if there's anybody in the audience who's listening who wants to ask a question. If you want to request, we can take a few before we close up and say thanks. So yeah, if you have a question you want to ask, either about Aqua itself, Minda's journey, or any of the insight that she's been sharing with us on DeFi,
Yeah.
do let us know.
I think maybe one day I will invite all my founders friend and we do like a safe zone Twitter space where we can share freely, right, about our
Wow,
real
let me
takes.
in that one, obviously.
But I
Yeah,
think
please let me in for that
I
one.
think they're gonna interfere a lot of, or they're gonna produce a lot of not very safe opinions.
I think that's one thing that I like about crypto, though. Honestly, having been involved in the tech space for like a long time, people are actually quite honest with what they say, and I don't think people are nasty. But if they don't believe in something, then they say that they don't believe in it, right?
Right.
Whereas I feel like in Web 2, I guess tech, people are much more polite, and you don't hear about it tends to be more personal stuff than actually based on product, right? Maybe because in crypto, the code is king, right? So everyone can sort of focus on the actual product versus personality. But it's definitely interesting to sort of think about that. I actually had one more question. I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask away anyway. Aqua is called Aqua because why?
This is just oh, okay, I didn't prepare this question, but this is actually